Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. This sled has some history. Many years ago, 47 to be exact, Lydia and I were newly married, and we'd only known each other a couple of months. I met her October. We dated October, November, and got married December 3rd. Yeah, kind of broke all the rules, didn't I? But then, that's been a normal thing in our lives. In any case, Lydia's mother lived over on Mead, Rebeck, and Turner Lake. That's over by Reading. And they had a house up on the hill overlooking the lake. And the guy who built all the cabins there, because he evidently owned the property and decided he was going to turn it into a lake campground or living space. So he put up a bunch of 1 and 2 room buildings. The 2 room buildings were on top of the hill up by the road, and the 1 room buildings were down below. So Lydia's mother lived next to the road that went down to the lake. And when they bought the house, the road wasn't there. The guy hadn't built all the houses. He'd only built the houses up by the road. They didn't know that there were going to be that many more houses. They just drove up every weekend that they could up from New York, because that's where they lived, Passaic, New Jersey. just outside of New York. And they drove up every weekend that they could, and Lid's mom would go fishing, and her dad would work on the house. And they came up there, and there was another house, and then another week went by, and there was another house. Pretty soon, there was about, I don't know, 30 houses altogether. Might be more. Well, they put that road in, and the road was very steep. And Lydia and I got married in December. We met each other on 2 days after my birthday, October 3rd. And we dated all of October and November and got married December 3rd. Yeah, 2 months. Risk takers, heartbreakers, life takers. No, we just stayed together the whole time, and it's been wonderful. But to get back to the sled, that road was very steep, and it was gravel. So I was driving back and forth, taking Lydia home to see her mother, and it snowed, and I said, wow, that'd be a great place to go sledding, because during the week nobody went down to the lake. They all left. They went back to Toledo or wherever it was that they lived. And Audrey lived on top of the hill, pretty much by herself. So I said, you know what we need? We need a sled. So I went to the hardware store and I bought a sled. This one, a Gladding Champion Fast Track. Big enough for 2 people to ride on, sitting. I was much smaller then. So we went down the hill, had a blast. It was probably good 75 yards. It went down about 30 yards from the road at a steady slope, and then dropped off almost to a 45. Nah, probably a 30. I don't think you could have climbed a 45 with a car. But it was very steep. And you get going pretty fast on that downward slope. Well, we had a lot of fun that weekend, sliding back up and down on that hill, walking up the hill and then sliding down. But that was the only time we ever went over there and sledded. We bought a house in Quincy. Well, I was living in Coldwater at the time, and everything around me was flat. We moved to a house in Quincy, and it had the house set up on a hill. So the hill went down into the side yard. I think we sledded a couple of times over there. Big thing we did then was cross-country skiing. I kind of like skiing. Lydia, not so much, but she did it because I liked it. Then we sold the house in Quincy after 11 years and moved over to Union City. Again, by a lake. And there was a pretty good hill by that lake too. Went from the main road down to the lake. So we took this sled over, and Ryan and I slid down the hill. That was a lot of fun too. But that's the only 3 times I can remember using this sled. Most of the time it's either set in the garage over in Quincy, set in the basement in Coldwater. I didn't have a garage. Then when we moved to Quincy, it set in the garage, hung from a peg on the wall. When we moved to Union City, it ended up in the barn. Then here, it went to the lawnmower shed and hung on a couple of pegs on the sidewall. Now there's not much slopes around here, at least close by. So I don't think I know I haven't used it while we were here. But I intend to take 2 little boys around and do some sledding. Oliver and Malachi should have a ball on this thing. And if Grandpa's careful and doesn't end up getting himself racked up, I'll have fun too. But for right now, I'm going to put this up on top of that rack over there, out of the way, and carry on with straightening up the workshop. This little thing I picked up at Menards. It's a Velcro strap. Kind of handy. When you've got a coil of wire like this and you don't have it tied up, it turns into a ball of knots. And when it does that, it kinks. And it's really hard to pull through a wall. You have to go through and straighten the whole thing out by hand, which takes forever. So, little Velcro strap, which cost me $1. Money well spent. That's right, he shoved the handle in. It's the right thing to do to give Ryan the big table saw. He's got a place for it. He's got a new house. And if I absolutely have to have something cut that only will be cut on that thing, I can get in the car and drive up to Hudsonville and have it cut. But this should cut everything that I need to cut. Okay, I'm going to call it a day for today and see if I can't rig up a sling tomorrow to lift this up and take it off the machine remover mallet, the casters. That's what we're going to call it. Hi, I'm Old Sneelock. Welcome to another episode of Old Sneelock's Workshop. straightening up the workshop. The rack over there in the corner now has a top rack. It's still got a lot of open space in the middle. But I want to make it so that I can actually do things here in the workshop and not have everything just piled one on top of the other. If you have any suggestions for new video, questions about today's video, or any of the other videos on the channel, just drop a note in the comments. You know I read them all. Thanks for watching.
Not to be viewed by anyone under the age of 13 in the U.S. or 16 in the European Union without the express written permission of the parents or the legal guardians of the underage person. Such written permission must be on file at the local government entity in charge of enforcing the rules and regulations established by the FTC. Anyone violating these terms is admitting by default that they hold harmless the owners and operators of this channel. Any and all questions should be addressed to your local branch of the FTC.